He loved everyone. He wanted everyone to like him. He had a real hard time if somebody disrespected someone he loved. But he would do anything for you. All you had to do is ask. Any picture that you see with me, with my son, I'm smiling. Pictures after, not so much. He was my life. He was my heart. He was my soul. He was my reason for being born. And now I'm trying to find that purpose that he is gone. He was my only child. If me talking about Michael could save one life, then maybe Michael didn't die in vain. Because I can't find a reason. I can't find any, there's no positive, there's no reason this should have happened. So for me to talk about Michael and maybe make people listen and hear of what can happen, and maybe them being in a place in their life where the same thing can happen to them and they make the right choice. And because of Michael's story, it saves their life. Maybe we can find some kind of positive, if that even makes sense. Michael had so much life to live. He loved life. Nothing stopped him. He wasn't one of these people who, oh, I want to go to Florida for a week and, oh, I have to do this, and this, and do a whole checklist before he can go. He went. You know, if he didn't even have enough money in his pocket to do it, he went. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about him, he let nothing hold him back. He loved to just go driving around and learning side roads and go into the country or wherever and just see where it would take him. He loved to do that. He loved adventure. He did. So Michael's father, when Michael was 10 years old, his father was diagnosed with cancer. And Michael was not doing real well in school at that age because of that. All he can think about is his dad getting chemo. And when you're a child, you know, you just think about what dad is going through. So Michael went into cyber school at the age of 14 so he can go to chemo appointments and things like that with his dad. His dad was his hero. He died when Michael was 17. So school, Michael wasn't real big on school. He didn't like to sit in a classroom or, you know, he was more of a hands-on, show me how to do it, you know, give me that tool and let me do it. You know, so that was more of Michael as far as schooling went. So, yeah, he was more hands-on. Michael wasn't one to, you know, do drugs all the time. Michael's drug of choice was beer. He did drink beer, especially since when his dad passed. Michael had a very difficult time, especially sleeping. He could not sleep. So he would have a few beers to try to be able to sleep. But he would tell me, you know, Mom, like, I hate drinking. I hate waking up in the morning and having the hangover. I hate wanting to sleep all day. And he just hated how it made him feel. So a little over a year before he passed, within that last year, he had put himself into detox 4 different times. trying to get sober. He didn't want to drink anymore. So as far as drugs themselves, I know through the years being out with friends, he experimented. He tried different things a couple of times. He would get home because he lived alone since he was 17 when his dad passed. He would get home and call me. I did something really stupid, Mom. I can't believe that I did this. And he would ask me to take him to the hospital because he was afraid of what that drug was going to do to him. He was afraid of pills. Yeah, he would not take anything even prescribed to him. I know that he tried coke a couple of times in his life. He didn't like marijuana. I know he had a few friends that was their choice, but he did not like how that made him feel either. So his drug of choice was beer. As far as the heavier things, Michael wasn't really into that. That wasn't his choice. So that is why, when what happened to him happened, that is why I believe he had no knowledge. He had no knowledge he was taking any kind of a drug. He went to detox to try to quit drinking because he didn't like it. He hated how he felt when he would drink. And in his last probably 6 months, he would go to, a Sheetz or a Get-Go, and he would get 2 of the larger cans of beer, and he would sit home playing Xbox all night and drink his 2 cans of beer while he was sipping his beers while he was playing his Xbox. That was him. He wasn't really one that liked to be out in bars or out partying or anything. He just liked to stay home and play his Xbox and sip at a couple beers. He was happy with that and taking his drives in his Mustang. Like, he loved his car and he loved his motorcycle. So that's pretty much what he liked to do. Sunday, August the 7th of 2022, I had told Michael to stop by my place to pick up dinner. I always cooked for him. I loved to cook for him because if not, he was hitting up McDonald's or, places that I didn't want him eating at. I wanted him to be a little healthier. So he came over on Sunday to pick up food, and when he stopped, I asked him to run to the store for me, and on his way back, he had a Mustang, and there's a metal plate that I guess holds the brake on a car, and it popped off of his wheel. So he was stuck at my house that Sunday till like 10 o'clock at night. Well, actually, they were there till after 11 fixing it, but a friend of his came around 10 o'clock that night to help him fix it. So, and I look at it now and I reflect back on it, and I think God was giving me extra time with him, and I didn't even know it. So that was Sunday. So then Monday, he again was at my home for the afternoon. He was helping me cut the grass and doing things outside. And he went home to work on his bathroom that he was remodeling. And he talked to me on the phone for approximately 45 minutes while he was working on the bathroom. He just put the phone on speaker and set it on the counter. And Michael was not working at the time. He was waiting for a check from unemployment, which he was already approved for, but he had not gotten it yet. So his bank account was negative. And he said, "Hey, Mom, you got a couple bucks? I can get a pack of cigarettes." He says, "I got to run to North Versailles to pick up something from a friend's house out there because he was going to help his girlfriend fix something at her house." And I said, "Sure, honey." I said, "Stop over on your way to North Versailles and I'll give you a few bucks for cigarettes." So he comes to my house and pulls in my driveway and didn't even shut the car off. He was in my house for 1 minute. He walked in the front steps because I would always prop the door open when I knew he was coming so he didn't have to use his key. And he came in and I said, "It's on the counter, honey." And he picked it up off the counter and came in the living room and gave me my hug and my kiss and said, "Thanks, Mom." He says, "I love you." And I said, "I love you too, honey." Little did I know that was the last time I would ever see my child alive. And he left. That was at 7:39 that night, Monday night, August the 8th. He was there for 1 minute. He left. At 8:30, 50 minutes later, I get a phone call from his uncle, who was living at my father's house at the time because there were some issues going on at home, so he was staying at my father's for a little while. And he calls me and he says, "Hey, Rose." And I say, "What's up, Jeff?" And he says, "Nothing." He says, so Michael stopped by here, and he says he stopped by to borrow a tool." And I said, "Okay." And he says, "Well, I was outside cutting the grass." And he says, "We came upstairs, so your dad wouldn't bother us." Jeff's bedroom was on the second floor. My father's was on the first. And my father did not see Michael show up. So they went up to Jeff's room, and Jeff said that they were just, hanging out and talking. And he said that he offered Michael a couple of shots of moonshine. And he said, "I gave him a couple shots of moonshine. He went to sleep." And after yelling at him and being very angry that he had given Michael any alcohol, knowing Michael had to drive home, he told me Michael went to sleep and, had the conversation. "Jeff, you sure there was nothing else in there?" No, it was just moonshine. He just went to sleep." And I said, "Well, Michael was at my house like all afternoon today. He was very tired. He did not sleep last night." Even at one point I looked at him and I said, "Quit being so grumpy," because he was just, in a mood because he was tired. And I grinned at him and he looked at me and he says, "I'm sorry, Mom." And we kind of chuckled. And, so I knew Michael was very tired that day. I'm thinking, okay, moonshine, it did him in. He's just tired. Just let him sleep. So Jeff and I had a conversation about how we would get Michael in his car home if Michael would wake up and want to go home and he was still, feeling a little tipsy, because I didn't want him driving that Mustang after having a few drinks. So I told Jeff that I would go to Michael's house and check on Michael's dog if Michael was not home by midnight. I got off the phone with him. Jeff sent me a picture of Michael sleeping on the bed. And I called my son's girlfriend and let her know where Michael was so that she wasn't upset that he wasn't in her place helping her like he was supposed to be. And I got off the phone with Jeff and he sent me the picture. And then an hour later at 9:30, I'm texting Jeff and asking how Michael's doing. And he's texted me 2 more pictures and he's telling me Michael's snoring away and he's fine. And I said, okay, well, just let him sleep it off. He's going to wake up and drive himself home. So I had laid on the couch and I fell asleep, and I woke up and I went over to Michael's house to check on the dog because, I had not heard from him yet. So I go over to the house to check on the dogs and went to sleep on the couch at Michael's, waiting for Michael to come home. And he didn't come home. So in the morning I woke up and I'm trying to, text Michael and his phone was off. And I'm trying to call Michael, his phone was off. So finally at 9:00, I called the uncle. I called Jeff. And he told me that Michael had left at 3:00 in the morning on his own. And I said, well, where did he go? And he said he went home. And I said, I was at his house half the night. He did not go home. I said, did he talk about going anywhere? Did he, talk to a friend or anything? And he said, no. He's like, I don't know where he could be. So he's like, oh, well, I'm going to go make coffee and stuff. He says, let me know if you find him. So I got a hold of Michael's girlfriend at work. She left work, and I'm talking to her on the phone as she's checking different houses, and I'm giving her ideas of where to check for him. We're thinking he went to a friend's house and he fell asleep playing Xbox at a friend's house or something. We weren't like too concerned yet. But as soon as I got off the phone with Jeff, I went back over to Michael's house, and I just wanted to make sure he wasn't sleeping and maybe charging his phone. He wasn't there. Talked to the neighbor. I said, if he comes home, please let me know. On the way back from there, I then called all the hospitals and the police stations in the area. There was nobody brought in, no accidents, no nothing the night before. So his girlfriend checked places, and then I checked places the rest of the day. There's so many places we checked. I mean, we exhausted all possibilities of where he could be. I went to the phone store, tried to track his phone. There were so many things that we did that day to try to find him. So I had to wait until 3:00 in the morning, Tuesday night into Wednesday, to be able to file the missing person report, because I had to wait for 24 hours. They would not come to my house, so I had to go to Michael's house or to the police station. So I went to Michael's house. His girlfriend was there with Michael's dog, and hoping that Michael would come home. Two policemen came. One sat at Michael's table with me, took all the information on what he was wearing the last time I saw him, all of that. And the other cop was out in the car talking to dispatch. I was, in hopes that they were going to find him. Did he wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and, he took another shot of that moonshine that was sitting there and he was picked up by the police? All the possibilities were going through my head that, of where he could be, that they would find him. The police didn't find him. They took pictures off of my phone of his tattoos to be able to identify him if they found him. We actually called the uncle at 3 o'clock in the morning while we were at Michael's. And he just said he didn't know where Michael could be, that he left at 3 o'clock on his own. So they left, and I put a post on Facebook with a picture of Michael's car and his license plate, and please call me. Please contact me if you know where he is. So the next morning, I was talking to his girlfriend on the phone. I'd gone home about 5:30 that morning. A couple hours later, I was talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and she got a text on her phone from a friend that said they have a Mustang surrounded in Northern Hills Shopping Plaza. So I was home still in pajamas, and it's about 3 miles from my house. So I was in that parking lot in about 13 minutes, dressed and in that parking lot. And I pull up in front of the Pep Boys that he was left at on the main road, and all these cops, I see Michael's car to the right, and his passenger's door was open, and I see all these police just surrounding the car in the area. And I stopped on the main road and jumped out of my car, and I was running up to Michael's car, and all these cops just surrounded me and said, "Ma'am, you can't go up there. Ma'am, you don't want to go up there." And I heard one of the cops yell, "That's Rose, that's his mom." And I don't know if that was one of the cops or was at Michael's to file the report or who he was, but he knew who I was. And then one of them told me, "Ma'am, you have to pull off the road. You have to pull into the parking lot." So I get in my car and I pull over and I park in a spot. And as I get out of my car, the detective came around my car and he said, "Ma'am, there's no other way to say this. He's deceased." I started yelling at him. I didn't want to believe him. You go into shock. I didn't know what to think, what to say, what to do. I just completely went into shock. And I started screaming at him. "Where is he in that car?" I was using not very nice language at that time, though. "Where is he in that car?" I'm thinking, did he leave at 3 o'clock in the morning on his own, and he stopped at the gas station for that pack of cigarettes and he ran into foul play at the gas station? What'd they do to him? Did they shoot him? Is he in the trunk? Where is he in that car? And the detective said he was in the passenger seat. The windows are up and the doors were locked. Well, this is a black Mustang with tinted windows. Michael was in that car for 36 hours before we found him. His body was so bad from the heat. It was the beginning of August. It was 82 degrees all day when we were looking for him. His body was so bad I was denied an open casket. So, after screaming at the cops and, being as upset as I was, now they took Michael away. They took him to the morgue and they took his car to test it for fingerprints and whatever else they could find. And, his uncle told me that he had left at 3 a.m. on his own. So within that week, I get a call, and the uncle's fingerprints were all over the car. He drove him there and left him. So 18 days after we found Michael, they went and talked to the uncle for the first time, who admitted to driving him there and admitted to throwing his phone and wallet out the window. They searched cameras in the area, and they found pictures of the uncle walking down Route 30 away from Michael, wearing Michael's Harley hat that he took off of my son's head and put on his own. We then started hearings and court dates. At first, the uncle was charged with abuse of a corpse and recklessly endangering another person. Then in November, the first pathology report came out. And the only thing they found in Michael's system was alcohol, where the coroner told me it was at a level that Michael would have been able to handle and most likely drive home. They found caffeine and nicotine, and they found a minute dose of fentanyl found only in his urine. And then in January, the coroner, who I had spoken to several times, and a few of the questions I asked him was, one of the main ones was Michael still breathing when he was left in that car? And as the coroner said, he said, I cannot stand in a court of law and say 100% scientifically that Michael was still breathing in that car. But several times he told me that in his professional opinion, in all the years of him doing his job, that Michael was most likely still breathing in that car. So he didn't even leave a window down. He parked Michael facing into a hill, which was tree and bush lined. He was hidden. You could not see Michael in a tinted window car where he was. And he left him to suffocate and die alone. If he had even called me or texted me when he left Michael, I would have been looking for Michael Monday night. And even if I didn't find Michael in time to save him, I could have been there to hold him. I could have been with him at the end of his life. He pulled into Pep Boys at 1:07 in the morning. He's on camera. But he told me that Michael left there at 3 o'clock in the morning on his own. The coroner wanted to do another set of tests. In January, he did another pathology report, because when they originally do a pathologist report, they record anything that's at a 2.0 or higher as a finding. So the coroner wanted to go below the 2.0 reporting level to see if he found anything else in Michael's system, anything. Because, even reading his whole autopsy report, Michael's nose was not burned out from drug use. His teeth were not falling out. They found no capsules in his stomach. He had no needle marks on him. Michael was not a drug user. Michael's drug of choice was beer. But as far as heroin, cocaine, anything like that, again, he did try cocaine a couple times in his life, but it was not something Michael, did on a daily basis or anything like that. So when they did the second pathology report, they now found the fentanyl at a 1.9 in his bloodstream. So it was right below the reporting level. So the coroner told me that the 1.9 tells him that after that many hours, it was most likely a very high dose of fentanyl he was given to begin with. But other than beer, fentanyl was the only drug found in Michael's system. So then at the magistrate, they dropped the involuntary manslaughter charge, which actually completely devastated me. Involuntary manslaughter was the only charge that the uncle had that directly held him responsible at all for Michael's death. Abuse of a corpse and recklessly endangering another person are the two charges that he ended up, keeping. So with that, we were then to have the sentencing hearing in May of 2023. We get to the sentencing hearing. I had 12 beautiful people with me. I always say 12 plus 1 because I know Michael was there. The uncle did not show up for the sentencing hearing. So from that time, I was pushing for the police and, I just kept asking and asking, please put his face on the news. If you put him on the news, you're going to find him. Please put him on the news. So it took me until December to finally make that happen with all of my calls and my text messages and my arguing to please put his face on the news. So finally that week, in December, I was arguing with the police and everybody in text messages and phone calls. That was a Tuesday. Wednesday, they put him on the news. He was arrested on Thursday. He then he was put in jail, and we had the sentencing hearing then in February. He got 3 months and 2 years parole. They tell me that even through his phone records, through the uncle's phone records, they know that he was talking to his drug dealer all afternoon the day that Michael came to the house. They know for a fact that he got drugs that afternoon before Michael came to the house. And they know for a fact from his phone records that he called his drug dealer walking away from Michael in that car at 1:07 in the morning. But they told me, even though we know he got drugs that day, we can't prove that he gave them to Michael. Yet, Michael had no money. His account was negative. At the scene, the cop gave me the things that were in his pocket, including the $20 bill that I had given him. I just don't understand why. How can someone be this cruel to another human being, let alone his own nephew, who he had known his entire life? He held Michael as a baby. I don't understand why. And I don't understand how he was able to get away with as much as he got away with. When he was arrested on the warrant in December, he had a gun and drugs on him. But he was arrested in Allegheny County, where this all happened in Westmoreland County. So now he has charges in Allegheny County. We actually have a hearing on the 10th of this month for that. But they're telling me he'll probably just get probation for that, even though he had a gun on him and he was a fugitive. He'll probably just get probation for that. So I don't understand how he was able to get away with everything he got away with. Michael and I got life. We got life. I will never see him marry. I will never see him buy a house. I will never see him hold his own child. I'll never hold his child. I'll never see his accomplishments in life or, what he would have become. He was 26 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. And he deserved to live it. And I deserved to watch him live it. And it was taken away by pure ignorance, by pure evil. I believe that when his uncle gave him the drug, and I believe that it was dissolved in the moonshine that he gave him, because Michael would never take a random pill from anyone. So I believe that when the uncle gave it to Michael and seen Michael's reaction, that he wanted Michael to die. He didn't want Michael to live and be able to tell what happened. So then he wanted to get rid of him. And he did his best. He promised me he would tell me if Michael left that house that night, whether it was him driving him home. Because if he drove him home, I told him I'll go to Michael's and pick you up and take you back. And he didn't let me know they were leaving the house. I don't think he wanted, I don't believe he wanted Michael to live. I don't understand how someone can be as cruel as he was, as he is. And he takes no blame for it. He has yet to even apologize for any of it. And he blames everybody else for everything. It's just unforgivable. So after all of this, I have also, from just reading all of the laws and learning about everything, I learned of the PA drug overdose immunity law. Pennsylvania has a law that if you are with somebody and you are both doing drugs and one of those persons start to OD and you call and get that person help, that you are immune to any criminal negligence for it. Like you can't get into trouble. And anybody I have asked don't know about that law, and I don't understand why that law is not more common. So be very cautious. Don't even trust your best friend. And for as horrible as that is to say, just watch you. If you're out with anybody, if you're, if you go to one of those college parties, or, you're out with friends at a bar, or, always have your drink in hand. Watch it be poured behind that bar. Because for as sickening and sad as it is, it could happen to you. You're not immune from this happening to you. It could be, a group of, college kids, and one of them was like, hey, let's see what happens to so-and-so if we put this in her drink. Let's just see how she reacts. Every drug out there today has fentanyl in it. Every drug. I don't care if it's marijuana or coke, heroin, whatever it is you're doing. Every time you go to do it, it's straight fentanyl. Like, this was straight. I don't even believe that the uncle knew that he was giving Michael fentanyl. I think that whatever drug he got from his drug dealer that day, I believe he put it in his drink, thinking it was whatever he thought he was buying from that drug dealer, and it was straight fentanyl. And you know what? If you're with a group of people and they're telling you, come on, just try this one time. Yeah, just one time. That one time can be it for you. And if they're truly your friends, if there's somebody that's supposed to care about you and truly your friends, they're not even going to ask you. They're not even going to ask you to participate in something like that. They're not truly your friends, and they truly don't care about you if they're asking you to put your life in danger. I have the rest of my life to live without my child. I don't even know how to do that. I have friends and family that love me. I know they do, but
they don't know how to deal with you.
they don't, and it's a very lonely journey. And I think a big part of that is you almost feel abandoned by that person that died and left you. How could you do this? Why? And you blame yourself. There's so much guilt that I have because I didn't go there that night. Like, why didn't I go there that night? He so made me believe that everything was fine, laughing and joking on the phone and telling me everything was okay. He was at my father's house. This comes with so much guilt. You know, with as bad as Michael was in that car, there was so much blood in that car. And they tell me that was from his body and the stages that his body was going through after he died. But I don't know. When I went to make the funeral arrangements the next day, I got to the funeral home, and that's when I found out that it would have to be a closed casket because of how bad Michael's body was. And I lost it. What do you mean I'm never going to see his face again? I can't touch him ever again? And the funeral director said if it were my son, I'd want to see him again. He said, you know, I can let you see him again. He said his body is very, very bad. He said his face is, and he went like kind of like that with his hand. And he said, and there's an odor. I said, I want to see my child again. So he said, give me a couple minutes to get him prepared. My 3 sisters and my son's girlfriend was with me. And we walked across the parking lot of the funeral home to a building. That's where they hold bodies at. And the funeral director opened the door. He held it open. You know, and in my head, I'm thinking I'm going to walk in and I'm going to have to go into another room to see him. He held the door open, and I was the first to step in the building. And there was Michael. He was in a cremation box, laying all in white sheets. His body was all covered in white sheets. All I could see was his head. I couldn't touch his hand or lay my head on his chest to hug him one more time. His face was very swelled up, and you could see every vein. But I was able to kiss his cheek and touch his face and tell him that I loved him. And that was the last time I saw my child. I couldn't go the rest of my life without seeing his face again. You know, for as hard as it is to see a loved one in a casket, for as hard as that is, it's a gift to the grieving people. They could touch them. They could kiss their face. They could touch their hand. It helps to give a little bit of closure. But when you walk into a funeral home and all you see is a closed casket and a picture of your child atop of it, because of pure ignorance, because of pure selfishness, he even took that from me by leaving my child in that car for 36 hours. I spoke to the uncle on the phone from Monday night at 8:30 to right before we found Michael. I talked to him on the phone 9 times within that time frame.
He knew where he was the whole time.
He knew exactly where he was. He put him there. I spoke to him 9 times on the phone. Actually, so Monday night is when Michael went there. Tuesday was when we looked for Michael all day. We found him Wednesday. So Tuesday was actually my father's birthday. It's actually the day Michael died. But my other sisters went to my dad's to sing happy birthday to my dad. And my one sister, Monica, looked at Jeff, who was there, being busy in the kitchen, getting everybody food, doing stupid stuff. My sister looked at Jeff and said, "Where's Rose?" And she was a little aggravated because me and Michael and Michael's girlfriend weren't there, because they had actually switched the times of when we were going there because I couldn't make it at the original time. So she was aggravated that I wasn't there. And Jeff looked at her and chuckled and said, "Oh, it's probably something with Michael." He knew my child was boiling in a car. He literally drugged my child, drug him to that car, hid the car, and let him suffocate and die alone.